Hello Indie Warriors, it's Jay from I Dream of Indie, and today we're taking a look at horror self-narrated title In Nightmare on the PlayStation 5. Have you ever had nightmares that you can't seem to run away from just because they resemble your real life? Well, this is a game about those kind of nightmares. In Nightmare tells the story of a young boy named Billy who, you guessed it, is suffering from nightmares. You'll be traveling through different stages of Billy's life, visiting and challenging some of his past traumas. This is a very emotionally charged game, which much of the plot being deciphered through different letters and reports from psychologists. Themes of abuse are prevalent throughout, so if you are someone who is not currently in the best emotional state, this may be one of those games you should avoid. I thought that this game was really good at making you experience what Billy has been experiencing. Reading all of these letters were very important, were also very challenging. A lot of these are psychologist reports. You get to see what kind of medications he was giving. You kind of get to see through a third view of what's happening in Billy's life, but you also get to read journal entries for Billy, so you get to see both sides of this. While playing in Nightmare, I was constantly reminded of another great title, Little Nightmares, with the main difference being the perspective from which you play. This game utilizes an isometric view, and that actually leads me to one of my first issues with this title. This is because you'll be solving a good amount of puzzles which were made all the more difficult by a very frustrating fixed camera. I found myself trying to move the camera to different angles at some points, and it was very frustrating not being able to do it. The implementation of the camera is a bit flawed here, as it was often difficult to find certain important items. Outside of that, you don't have all that many controls to worry about. With the ability to jump, a limited amount of sprint, you can crouch, and of course you have a button dedicated to interacting with objects. I am the type of person that easily gets lost in games, which is a common occurrence throughout, which I attribute some of these areas being a little bit poorly designed and laid out. The stealth mechanics of the game, you are trying to avoid these different nightmares and these different characters in various different ways. Some of them have a lot of eyes in throughout their body, and you just have to duck under tables and break in the line of sight. Others, you couldn't be heard, so you would have to be crouching, you would have to be walking a little bit slowly. The stealth was very, very fun. That pounding, that adrenaline rush that you would get when you would get seen and then had to run for it. It was a very, very interesting and very fun gameplay. I will say once they catch you, you do have to reset in your last save. I didn't find many ways to manually save my game constantly, so they do have a pretty handy autosave feature, and they would keep autosaving the game for you. Some of the checkpoints would be exiting out of a door, lighting a switch. Those are scattered around the game and they are pretty common. So one thing that I was really thankful about was that if I were to die, I knew that I wouldn't have to go too far back to retrace my steps. As for the puzzles, I really enjoyed most of them. They do have a lot to do with being in a maze, trying to find your way out. I did get stuck on a couple of them and I had to search for a little bit of help, but they are pretty awesome puzzles. They keep you on your feet and they keep you trying to think about, okay, where am I going next? Overall, you are looking at about 8 to 10 hours of gameplay depending on your skill level. The game does have a lot of collectibles, so for those of you that are completionists, In Nightmare should keep you occupied for a good while. Visually, you won't need to worry a lot about flashing lights, which is good news for those of you that might be sensitive to such effects. The different areas that I explored, most of them were in very low lighting. You can use your companion to go ahead ahead and search the area for you. This is of course a limited circumference that your companion can go through, and this was very, very interesting and very helpful, at least for me. The sound is actually a big aspect of this game, and there were points where I wish the vibrating function was utilized. This is mainly because some of these characters that you are running away from, they use sound to let you know that they are nearby or that they have seen you, and at some points I would get stuck mainly because I didn't hear that the lady heard me or that the lady was near me. But this is assisted by also the screen turning a little bit red, and I just missed the rumble function being utilized a little bit more in my controller. The game's musical composition was really wonderful. It did give that atmosphere of having to run away from something, of, oh, we are hiding now, we should be quiet. One of the main things that I noticed from the get-go was that when you walk, your steps are very, very loud, but if you crouch, they can't hear you that much. So I really appreciated that. There is very minimal voice acting in this game, but the voice acting that they do have is really on point. The parts that I've been playing that have had voice acting is mostly the lady from your nightmares, so you get to enjoy those little nuggets of voice acting, and you get to enjoy sounds and really cool audio. If you are playing the game in 4K, you may run into a glitch that will cause frame rate issues in the game. This is fixed by switching your PlayStation's resolution to 1080p. I didn't run into any real performance issues of note, as I was personally playing on a 1080p display from the start. So to close this out, I really enjoyed this game. It was a very positive experience. Once I learned how to give myself breaks from it, it is a very emotionally charged game. I would have loved some trigger warnings in this game, or at least in each chapter, so I knew what I was getting into. But overall, it's a good game. It's a very recommended game. If you are a fan of games like Little Nightmares, this is a game that I believe you will enjoy a whole lot. You get some of the scare jumps, you get some of the getting to run away and crouching and jumping. I did have fun in the end, and I do recommend this game. It is a beautifully made game. The graphics were beautiful in my opinion, so I really, really loved it. Will you be accepting the challenge and overcoming your nightmares in this game? Let me know in the comments below. Before I go, I want to thank our indie warriors Bill T, Christian Cruz, Kevin Lowe, Adriana Amato, CJR, PSC, Julian Colbus, Jesse, Raylin, Marky Mint, Dave Harp, Peekaboo, Lex Noyle, Carmine Red, King of the Hatch, Blue Francis 14th, and our indie legends Jen Rose, Larkinson, Mitchell Hall, Eric, Pitch, Skepticism, C. Coyle, Nathan Moore, Chris Jackson, Mr. W. Thank you for your support by watching this video, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any reviews or gameplay impressions. Check out the description box to see how you can become an indie warrior yourself. Help us bring a voice to the voiceless ones in gaming.